Live in.
Welcome, guys. Welcome, guys, to the Flutter Conference India 2020. This is Yash Shadulkar with Sunny Prasad, and we both like to welcome you to the third day of Flutter Conference India 2020 on behalf of Flutter India. So, first of all, before going ahead, I would like to thank you to all to the amazing response we got from our audience, from our viewers. We have approximately reached 2,500 people in the last 2 days, and our Twitter content and our Twitter reach has been more than 30,000. So I will really like to thank you, all the viewers, all the people who have reached to us, who have watched the videos. Now, before going ahead, I would like to actually go a bit back in the history and tell you about our last two successful days in FlutterCon India. So, in the previous 2 days, we had a total of 6 speakers, 3 speakers each day. On our day one, our conference was actually started with an astonishing keynote by Nilay Yenna, who is a program manager of Flutter and Dart team. Next, we learned about the grips of Flutter futures and asyncs in Flutter by a GDE named Gazian Alankas. And our first day was ended with an amazing session on the responsiveness in Flutter web apps by Hasnan Tal. On a day two, we had Dominic, who is an organizer of Flutter Warsaw and Flutter Europe, and is also a Flutter freelancer. Our conference was continued with Bhavish Daswani, who explained us the hottest topic present in Flutter, that is the state management. Our day two was completed by Will Lush, who is a Flutter engineering lead in material and the brains behind all the material designs that we use in Flutter. And he also told us about the new updates that we will be getting in Flutter designs in the next 1 year. Guys, as we had an amazing response in last 2 days, today we have brought not 3 speakers but 4 speakers in our sessions. And I would like to welcome Sunny Prasad to tell us about our today's session in Flutter Conference India. So, thank
Yeah, thank you, Yash, for giving me the stage, and I'd also like to thank again our attendants who have given us overwhelming love and support. So thank you very much. And so for today's stream, we have 3 sessions, and I am sure that you'll like it. And the first one is scalable architecture by leveraging strategic domain-driven design. And this is quite an intriguing topic, because when you are going large scale, if you are going to build large product, then you have to think about architecture. And also Majid Hajian, who is from Oslo, will take the session. So up next we'll have Deven, Joshi and Pooja, Bhaumik, and they both are very early contributors to this Flutter community, and they've been writing awesome content and making and showing us what they are experimenting with. So we'll meet them too. And the last one, we will have Nikita Gandhi, uh, uh, the developer from Google. So she manages communities in India, and she'll tell her awesome story about how communities have evolved, and how they are helping developers shine. So so to start with the scalable architecture, I want to uh, join my friend Aditya here. So I want to discuss more about if you are working in a company, and you have a project with you have a little project where client asks for some amount of things to be included in an app, and your company builds that in like 3 months, 4 months, and it is after it is delivered, it's not your responsibility to take care of it. But that's not the case when you are building projects which are to be maintained for a very long time, or which are to be monetized, or like big businesses. So at that point, I've come across this project I'm working on with my agency. So we are building a project for the client, and it is going to be go very long term. And I am always thinking about how I can write code and documentation, so that the developers who come after me will be able to easily understand, or whatever feature we may need to add to this app can be easily extended. So I hope this will be very helpful to all the people, all the developers to truly skill up and show their abilities to, if they are trying to get a job or anything. So Majid Hajian from Oslo will take this session on this topic, and Majid also organizes quite a few communities, and I have a few names, and they are many. So where is Majid? So Majid organizes GDG Oslo. Then there is an Angular community. Majid is passionate about PWAs and Vue and everything web. So it will be great to learn from Majid. And Aditya, please welcome Majid to the stage, please.
Yeah, so guys, I would like to hand over the screen to Majid. So welcome, Majid.
Hi. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Majid. So I was just telling about how scalable architecture is important to for large scale
Yes.
products which are to be maintained for a very long time and to be made business out of it. So over to you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Great. So I can start maybe, right?
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
yours.
Good. So everyone can see my slides also. How about my sound? Is it fine?
Yes, everything is fine. They can see
Good.
your we can see your slides, and sound is pretty good.
Perfect. Let's go, India. Let's go.
Yeah, thank you. So stage is all yours. I'll remove myself from the stream. Thank you.
Perfect. Hello, India. Hi. I'm very glad right now standing here talking to you virtually, although I would definitely love to come and see you all of you in person. It's not possible at the moment. Everyone knows how the situation is, but what I want to do right now, I just want to feel I am in India and I'm actually on stage and you're watching me and you can come to me. So just feel free to do though. So I have my clicker, I have everything. I'm even dressed up because usually I do when I go on a stage, right? So I'm just next to you, hopefully. And thanks, Sunny, for the introduction and for the things that you said about the strategic and scalable architecture. That is true. But the thing is that this talk, I evolved it for a few months, and then I got a lot of feedback, and I added different things, and I updated from enterprise to very simple apps. So whoever you are, wherever you work, hopefully you can be inspired by this talk, and you can take part of this talk to your daily work basis. So let's get it started. I'm going to talk about the DDD, but the strategic part of it. We will get into it. So first of all, you may even ask yourself then why. I mean, when we are going to design an app or a software in general, we have different things to do, right? One of the things that we usually do, if you think about it, is that we share our experiences too, and then we can learn from those experiences and then apply to our application. That is definitely true. When we add these experiences to a list of, let's say, practices, then we're gonna have best practices, and then we're gonna combine these best practices and then create patterns. And then when we add a little bit of philosophy, then we will have methodology. Here is one of those methodology that is in the in the subject of my talk too: domain-driven design. The most important part of this talk, which is the theory part about the DDD, is inspired by, actually it's extracted by the text from these books. The blue books, the most important one, Eric Evans, the writer, and the other two, which is like a complementary to this blue book. So if you want to go ahead and read about it, these are the references. There are other references too, which I'm going to add to my this slide at the end. So you can come back to the slide and grab it and go and learn it. Before I go one step further, remember, each of these books has around 700-800. They are literally so thick and a lot of information inside. There are a lot of also controversial discussion out there that DDD is not for front end, not for app, it's for back end, not for microservices, etc. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you something that I used and I think we can also use and inspired by DDD. So let's think about it. So when we have a project, usually when we have app development, this is the chart that you may have seen or you are seeing right now, even in your company. So the number of resources or like capacity is more or less most of the time like same, but the complexity of the apps grows, right? And once it's exceeded of the capacity, then you're going to get a problem. So the app is out of the hand and it's very difficult to refactor, to add feature, release, bug fixes, and etc. But the thing with DDD is that it promises, or one of the goals with DDD is to reduce this complexity of your project so it can be maintainable while it's scalable. That is very great. So, and in fact, after a few years of DDD being out and being implemented by a lot of companies, it was proven that, in fact, it is true if it is implemented correctly. But you may ask, when can I use DDD? Well, I would definitely come to this slide and talk about it a little bit. When we are developing like a Flutter app, let's say, we usually, even in software in general, let's say, if you are a very experienced developer, or even if you are not, you may have seen different type of software, which I can actually categorize them into 4. So the type of software or apps that usually are dealing with data or amount of data, let's say those big apps or those apps that are dealing with big data. Some apps they use and they need performance, so it's very important that they load very fast, they stay very fast, and they do a lot of things very fast. And some apps are they have very business logic complexity. So imagine that you are building an ERP and that has a lot of module and component, so you need to build them, you need to scale them, and also it has a lot of logic inside it. So how is the flow? What is the next flow? If it's approved or rejected or canceled, or And also we have a type of apps that they're dealing with technical complexity. In fact, technical complexity means like you need an app that you're writing an algorithm that it needs to do, this algorithm needs to do something very complex and solve it. So when we are talking about DDD, I'm emphasizing this here. I'm talking about at least the part of application or those applications that are dealing with business logic complexity. So if you have any other apps, you may not use DDD, or it's not a perfect choice for that. But does it mean that you cannot use it or you cannot be inspired? To my opinion, of course not. You can be inspired, you can learn from it, you can apply where it suits you. So when we are talking about DDD, DDD is actually, to me, it's like a very good combination of 2 simple or great software principles. Yagni or keys, or you know them, right? Yagni, you're not gonna need it, or keys, keep it short and simple. So DDD is focusing on essential parts to simplifying the problems. So this is a great methodology that we can go through it. But as I said, DDD is not like the things that we should always do, right? My goal of this talk is to inspire you, or I was inspired, I did something, and I just want to share this inspiration to you. I really like this. So being inspired with whatever I say from now on until the end of the talk, and grab the part that it fits you or it suits your app, and then implement and then enjoy. So what we are going to learn today, I'm going to go through the basic of DDD, because we need to know at least those parts that is very important for our applications development. We're going to go through a strategic domain-driven design, why and what it is. And we're going to go through 2 proposed Flutter architectures, so which I implemented in my apps, and they work. So I guess if you have an enterprise or a simple app, you can come to these into architecture and look at them. And then I'm going to show you a demo, like the app that I created and a repository that I created, and I'm constantly evolving. So let's go through it. Before that, I know that I was introduced, but let me introduce myself one more time. My name is Majid Hajian. I'm from Oslo, Norway. Very far from you right now, but my heart is there. It's just like beating for you right now. So I'm a passionate software developer. I'm particularly passionate about 2 technologies, constantly talking about them, Flutter and PWA. I really love them, and I guess this is the future, to my opinion. In my spare time, I do a lot of things. I wrote a book about PWA. I also co-organizer and organizer of different communities, Flutter community, GDG, Mobile Conf, and some conferences in Nordic countries. Let's go through domain-driven design. All right. When we develop a software, if as a software developer or as a app developer, when we are developing an app, we're just thinking about technology, probably, right? But DDD is telling that we should not focus on technology. Business is also very important, or maybe the most important things. So in fact, when we are solving problems as a developer, as a software engineer, we need to understand client needs, right? If we don't understand what they need, then how can we build an app or write a code? And in this case, the client, maybe for us, is another department of our company, if you're working in a large company, right? So it is very important to understand them. And here is where we're talking about the domain. So you need to understand your domain of work wherever you are. So domain-driven design has 2 important parts. The first part is strategic design tools, and the second part is tactical design tools. And the tactical part, let me just talk about this first, is where you are actually implementing and writing code and like designing how you write your code and those kind of things. I'm not going to go through the technical part today, but I'm going to go through the strategic part where it's talking about the strategy, as you said. So how can you create an app, break them down, architect them, and those kind of things. So this is that domain-driven design is very important. If you look at the pictures on the right, it looks like a city. And the fun fact is here, I need to tell you, maybe someone knows on the call, this is probably one of the city in India, by the way. If anyone knows where, just send me it, like just write it in the chat right now. I really like to know it. I know that it's from India though. So on the right, it's a city. It's a new city that it's built like very modular. If you look at it, it's very nice. You know how to go to these cities. Where is the road? Where is the main road? And etc. And it all creates a nice city. But on the right, if you don't have a strategy, if you have not planned properly, then you will end up have this city. You don't know where or who is where. So this is the strategic part of domain-driven design. When we're talking about the strategy, we're talking about the planning. So we need to learn, we need to know, we need to decouple, we need to decompose, and then we need to apply afterwards. All right. As I said, strategic DDD is all about decomposing. We do have our core domain, which is the most important part of your business, which is serving to your client. That is the core domain, right? But in fact, the core domain could be very broad. It could be very huge. So it is very difficult to work on such a huge domain. So then DDD is actually suggesting to break them down, to decompose them to subdomains. All right, let's talk about it with an example. Let's imagine now you are creating a manufacturer app. That is our core domain, but think about it. If you are creating this app, you may have sales department, you may have manage employees department, you may have accounting, you may have marketing, products, etc. Right? In just a few seconds, just with this slide, we could break them down to smaller pieces. These are in fact subdomains. But let's get into it a little bit. Let's see how this look actually in DDD language. If you have sales right now here, each or marketing or employees or accounting, let's say, all of them dealing with customers. And this is the customer of the main or the core domain, right? In all of them, customer may have a different meaning. In sales, the customer, the sales team needs to know about the interests of the customer entity. But in accounting, they don't care what they're interested in. In fact, they're interested on their payment method. So the customer, the ID and name is same, but different fields could be used in different subdomains. And if you are creating a boundary around this, as you see here, different entities, then we are actually creating bounded contexts. Great. So in each bounded context, we're creating something that is meaningful for that particular bounded context, and that's it. So in fact, if I want to say you think about something in your app, in bounded context, we can actually differentiate bounded context with namespace or folder or maybe projects, right? So in each bounded context, though, everyone in this bounded context, whoever is responsible in these bounded contexts, like product owners, developers, stakeholders, or whoever, they need to actually talk in one language, and that language is ubiquitous language. So think about it. DDD is not telling you that you have to create a ubiquitous language for the whole app. It should be a ubiquitous language for each bounded context. All right. So everyone should know what you're talking about. If you're talking about interest, that the interest should have the same meaning for the developers, for product owner, for stakeholders, for everyone else. And when you are creating the bounded context right now, that is great. But then, well, no apps can work without communicating to these bounded contexts, right? Because these are the part of those whole core modules, right? we need to get access to some data. Maybe accounting needs to know a list of sales for that customer, or maybe marketing needs that, or maybe employees need to get access to accounting of the customer, or they need to get some data, right? So you need that the bounded context can get data from each other, and that creates context map. But in fact, here is the funny things. If everyone is going to ask from each other, then we are creating the same mess. So there should be a better way to handle these context map, right? So there should be a better way to create a way to get data from each other. Here is where domain-driven design suggests several options. I am interested in 2 options, and I'm introducing to you right now. The first one is shared kernel. Like you can imagine of a common modules or common widgets or common folder, whatever you want to call it. An example is user authentication. That is something that all of these sub-modules need to get access to. So you need to put them in somewhere that all of them can get access. And everyone in that modules, or bounded context, they need to go and get the data from shared kernel. That is great. And also, then everyone in all the developers, let's say, they're also responsible for the shared kernel. So they need to fix them, they need to add feature and etc. Oh, well, in a smaller team, it may work very well, and I do suggest it. I used it. It's working very well. But if the team grows, let's say if you are working on an app that you're just working on sales module or sales subdomain, and 5 of you working on marketing, and 5 of you are working on employee, and different teams working on different subdomains, then maybe shared kernel is not a good idea. The reason is that then all of you need to fix or add feature to this shared kernel. And then if all of you should do that, then it's not a good idea. It must be probably a single responsibility for a team or someone. But then what can be the solution? The solution is open host service. So you can create, in fact, a very tiny layer in each subdomain, which is exposing what you want to the outer world. So if order or if accounting or if support subdomain, they need to get something from you, they should go through your open host service. Here is where I call it actually API. This is API. So you are designing an API for your outer world. So if someone needs to get something, some subdomains, they just come to your API and get it. And this API is gonna be stable. So it's gonna be stable, and you will change the layer under that, but you never change the API. So you feel free to change from, I don't know, parsing XML to parsing JSON, but that doesn't affect the API. No worries for other subdomains at all. All right, here is just some very tiny part of the domain-driven design, which we just spoke, but I feel like these are very important part of it. We definitely have other parts. We can definitely go through them in details, but as a part of a strategic design tools, I guess for designing an app or going through an architecture, this could be enough. So, but how did I architect my apps in the last 1.5 years, let's say, in Flutter? And what did I do for both simple apps and both enterprise apps, which I created like an app, had over 600 screens or so, and it was a big teams working on that. So you wanna organize everything very well. So let's go through it. So first, the enterprise version of it. The enterprise version of the architecture is heavily inspired by Clean Architecture by Uncle Bob and Onion Architecture. So feel free to even implement Clean Architecture or Onion Architecture. So no problem with that. I modified a bit for my app, and I feel like it's working. So I'm just introducing to you. So feel free to use all of that, part of that, or you replace it with clean architecture, which is very similar. Let's go through it. You're going to have these subdomains as we dock. Okay. The first layer, obviously, is going to be the presentation layer. So we are creating a Flutter app, so we need a presentation layer. And what I suggest here is that the presentation layer should have like screens, those widgets that they handle logic or state, and then some other widget that they just render. So they don't care. They just get input and render. And you will split your screen, your widget, from your state management. If you do that, though, you can provide it to your screen. And then at any point, you can even change this state management to anything else. Decompose them. So like if you are a fan of block as me, maybe you can go ahead and use that, create your block state management, and then provide it to the screen. The second layer is going to be application layer, where it's actually a facade. If you don't know what facade is like a way to simplify all of the other API underneath into one, so you can get everything from one. So here is the application layer. So another layer is that domain layer. So the domain layer is the most important part of your subdomain. Here is where you have object values, you have entities, interfaces, and logic, which are just particularly for this subdomain. And they are completely isolated to the outer world and to the other layers. Okay, and the fourth layer, so see, it's also a layered architecture. So it's infrastructure. You can call it data or whatever you want it, but the infrastructure layer is where you have your data sources. You could have different data sources, though. You could get data from remote. You could store it in cache and then get it from local. You can have different data sources like geolocation. You will define, you will decide. Also, you have models, so definitely you need to serialize and deserialize the data from these data sources. If you have JSON or XML or anything else, here is where you are doing that. So in the repository is where you are deciding which data sources and with what kind of error or with what kind of logic, a tiny logic, not just the logic for the app, but just to decide which one to show, send it to the upper layer. So in fact, we go through it right now. If you come from top to bottom, the presentation layer, your logic holder, let's say block, is getting access to the application. And the application is where it's getting access to infrastructure. And in fact, is getting the data from repository. That's good. So you have only one repository. I mean, you could have different repository, but you could get data from repository. Also, you may see that application has access to domain. Infrastructure also has access to domain. So that means domain tell other layers that what is this subdomain about and how you should create your entities and etc. and then pass them out. But how you can actually talk to each subdomain in this architecture, as I suggest it, you can have an API. Technically, you can have an API, and then you can expose whatever you want to expose to other subdomains via this API. It sounds a bit complicated, and it sounds too much work for maybe for you right now. But the thing is that if the app is quite big, it completely makes sense. But if it's too small, it may be overkill. So if Do we have a better option? So of course, in a smaller application, I use something else. But before we get into that, let me just tell you, if you go through this architecture, decompose them, you have a chance to even create a package out of them. Imagine that you are working in a large organization. You decompose these subdomains into a package, let's say sales package. And then if the next app is coming, you can simply just import this package and then start using it. This is great. So you can simply create small packages here. And at the end, combine them and create your application. But the simpler architecture, how we can do that? The simpler architecture has only 2 layers, in fact, or maybe 2.5. I'll explain what is the half. So you go through this sales and catalog and like all of those subdomains. You create here is the subdomains. Maybe the representative of it is a namespace or maybe a folder. So you have your presentation layer, which definitely has some UI logic, which is the state management system, which is block, for instance, in this example, and the screens that they're showing something. And you have, of course, you have common, maybe shared kernel here is what you need to do. So it's more natural in smaller app to have a common folder and then put whatever is common between these subdomains. The second layer is the logic layer, which you have your repositories. The same concept. The repository is where you are combining several data sources and then send the data up to the presentation, which is the logic layer. The business, the state logic holder. And then you have maybe services or business logic. If you want to do something, you want to change something here. For instance, you have you get some data from backend, from your API, and then you need to manipulate them and transfer them to another type. For instance, you get just a huge list, a long name, and then you need to just add maybe something to each of them. These are the logic particularly for each subdomain. Then here is where you do. And then you go ahead and then you have a shared layer. Technically, in a smaller app, you may have 1 or 2 data sources, and then you get everything from those APIs in 1 or 2. So maybe creating several data sources or adding data sources to each subdomain is a little bit more work, but feel free to do it if you're in the between of enterprise and simple, and it makes sense to you and your app. Then you have, again, your remote data sources and local data sources, the cache one, which is coming and you stored already. And the models could be like serializing and deserializing JSON or XML or whatever else. And of course, this is like a shared layer between all of them. In fact, you can put them maybe into shared kernel. So here is a very simple one. So you have presentation, so the logic, and then data source. So imagine that you have logic layer, which has repository. So the data sources in data layer goes to the repository. And then from repository, one API goes to the state management. And that's it. So very simple in dependency injection. I do not have time to talk about how you can handle your dependency injection, though. But I have some suggestion in the repository that I created for these particular architectures and talks. So here is the link to the app or the suggested architecture for both enterprise and simple. So we will definitely share these slides via maybe YouTube and also my Twitter, definitely. So you can get access to all of these sources. No worries about it. So let's look at it right now. It may sound a lot of folders to you, but here is where we could create our small packages. So I can, with I had a feedback on this repo, which someone says that can we maybe create a domain and then add catalog to that, and then add all of these domains stuff like entities, etc. to that, instead of creating a catalog and put all the folders, like instead of vertically doing that, horizontally doing that. So definitely it is possible. It is, I mean, this is like your development team taste. If you like it this way, do it this way. If you don't like it, just do it that way. The most important thing is that you know which layer is where and how you can get access to it. This is the most important part of it. So even you can remove all of these folders and you can just name the files. That is very important. So here is where exactly what we talked about. So as you see in the screens, and you may have seen it so far as I talked. All right, so let's look at the smaller version. Smaller version is like, again, you have the catalog. Of course, if you open the catalog, you get access to presentation immediately, and you may have different folders for that and different screens, of course. And then you have your logic holder, which is repositories and any other logic like utils, particularly for these catalog. And then you're going to have your common widgets. And data sources are also one folder, which they have 1 or 2, 3 files. Depends on your project. Then you can go ahead and do that. To my eye, if we create this folder, if you're inspired by this folder, it is easy to take out the whole logic of the whole folder of catalog and then put it into another project. So that's why I like it maybe this way, but feel free to adjust and adopt based on your project. So as I said, these are not hard rules. These are just a guidance. So I believe we should let DDD guide us, not hard, tell us the hard rules. That is my opinion, of course. So, and I use those rules and implement it in our application, and it works. And I think here is the reason that I'm sharing with you. And I hope so far you are you know what I'm talking about. Definitely, if you have any question, come to the repository, open an issue. Let's talk about that, and let me know about your app, because I may not have all the different apps flavors. You know, just come to the repo, open an issue, and then we can discuss what you need, and we can improve definitely. So let's go through a quick summary. We learned about the basic of DDD. We learned about the strategic part of it, and then why it's important, and how can that help by decomposing and finding those subdomains. Let me tell you here again and emphasize that actually finding subdomains probably is the most difficult part of your job. So it's not as easy as it looks. So you may have a lot of difficulty to decompose your application, but it's absolutely worth it if you spend a little bit of time before you start coding. So, and then we had two in architectures inspired by DDD. And with that said, thank you very much, India. Thank you. And I'd like to hear your feedbacks. Come to the slides. Here's the link, short link. Come to the slides, tweet me, send me an email, or open an issue on the GitHub repo. I may be slow, but I definitely answer. I love to answer. And let's collaborate and share our knowledge to others. Thank you. I'm happy to answer some question maybe.
Yes, we have some questions. Maybe you can pick up a
Yes.
few which you like.
If I'm looking this way, because I have two monitors, so no.
You can.
All right. Should I scroll to the up or? Okay. For a large organization, would you recommend making a company level package for common custom components? if I understood correctly, so maybe you're talking about like a style guide-ish, something like that, or of course subdomains as we discussed. Well, definitely, I guess yes. So we did actually in our organization right now, which is a quite big organization. We have a lot of developers. In general, the company has 22,000 employees or something. So we have several app development teams, different working on different things. But what we did with Flutter, and it's so exciting, and I was part of it. I can share it with you. Is that we create like a style guide package, like a widget, packages of widgets for UI only, and then now each team, they can simply actually download this from our private repo. And then start using it, and everyone can contribute to the UI. So if our style guide is not working properly, so it's fixed maybe from another team, So it's a great idea. Also, remember, we are decomposing, and the main reason is that we're going to actually split our app to smaller pieces that can be maintainable, scalable, and shareable. So you definitely want to share. So absolutely, it's worth it. I hope I answered the question. If I don't, then send another question or send me a message or something. TDD or DDD? Well, very good. Well, TDD is test-driven development, and DDD is domain-driven design, two different things. So DDD is a methodology, like a broad one for architecting an application and implementing that. But TDD is another way of app software development. Let me just tell you this. You can definitely, with this architecture, use TDD. Feel free to do that. If you are a big fan of writing tests before writing your code and then write your code, definitely do that. If you are a big fan of writing code and test later, definitely do that. No problem. No problem at all. You may even mix, which I do usually. So in some part of application, which we are 100% sure what we are going to do, we go with TDD. We write our test and then fail, the concept, and then we go through the code. So that is definitely what we are doing. But in some part of our application or logic, when we don't know exactly how this look like, this API or this function at the end, we are not going to use TDD because it just takes a lot of time and effort. We try to stabilize this function and this API, and then once it's stable, then we write our test. So definitely both of them you can use. So another question is that, can you share some code examples for DDR? Absolutely. Maybe I can share quickly. The repository that I shared in my slide, they contain source codes. So let me just share also my editor. Here is it looks like. So you can definitely get an idea of, and I'm also evolving this repo constantly. So over the last 7 months, I constantly updated and changed and add more stuff and update that. So definitely you can get an idea here. I think it's a little bit small. Maybe I can make it bigger. I changed my key binding and I'm not sure.
Maybe it is command ++ or
here we go.
Right.
Yes. So then here actually is the code. So you get the main app, you get injections, how it works. And that's actually what I couldn't talk about. You get the comment or the catalog as an example, API, infrastructure, some code, and how does it work. And of course, if you are not a big fan of enterprise and you need a smaller app, then here's a simple one. You can go through the simple app. You can go through the same almost folder structure, but different layers. I have presentation, I have logic. And let me tell you the logic part here, though. So here is one of those things that I said is particularly for this subdomain, and it's a logic part. Like it's a function that you pass in the product type, and then based on that, you may want to return something else in the app. So this is something that is particularly for the domain, not anything else, right? So you put them there. So you definitely can get access. I do not have time to go through it very detailed, but I definitely have this repo right now. It has even maybe, I don't know, 90 something star. So you can go ahead and even start it if you like it, and open an issue if you have something that is not here and maybe you cannot figure it out. I know that I gave you a lot of information in 40 minutes, so you need to go through it and digest it. So definitely go through it, digest it, and if you don't understand it again, come back to the repo, open an issue, let me explain to you again. Hopefully I can explain to you, and then you can come up with the idea that you can implement in your app.
Yeah, thank you, Majid, and we'll be sharing this link to the repo in YouTube chat and later in Twitter. So, yeah, and
Fantastic.
and looks like we do not have any more questions. And we'd like to thank Majid for coming here and sharing this great information. And I was also trying to learn from a few other examples on GitHub. So I picked some ideas, and also from Riso Coder's blog. And as Riso says, please take the techniques which you understand and discard others. So I guess
Exactly.
that is true with uh, any architecture, that whatever you understand, you can take it and discard the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Majid. And
Great. Thank you very much for having me. And hopefully next year I'll be there in India.
yeah, sure. We'll be very happy to host you here, and
Thank
we'll
you.
we'll travel. Sure. Okay. I'll
See
put
you then.
see you then. Okay, I'll put Vivek on the stream. So hi
Hi
Vivek. So
everyone. Yeah, hi Sunny.
Vivek
So
is
we are ready for our next talk. So I'll just start with something. So I used to write stories and poems from childhood, and I continued that when I entered in technology world. But things were very different here. So now, whenever I try to write a blog of 5 minutes long, it takes almost a day to complete it. To conclude, there's a lots of challenges we face when we write a blog, uh, a technical blog. So to have a guidance in writing, we have our next speakers delivering talk on mastering written Flutter content. We have two great speakers and writers from India. First, I would like to introduce Pooja Bhaumik, who is GDE in Flutter. In fact, she is the first female GDE in India. She is senior engineer at Bouncer. Also, she is speaker, blogger, writer, and mentor. Second speaker is Deven Joshi. He is associate mobile developer, Flutter Hack 19 international winner, and one of the most recognized writer for Flutter. So stage is yours, Deven and Pooja.
hi Devin. Hi Pooja.
Hi,
Hello.
thanks for having
So
us.
welcome to the stage, and I would like to thank you guys. And I have to mention this experiment you were doing, Devin, with the generative art and those.
Overlay.
So,
Yeah,
if you do not know, Devin loves to experiment with Flutter, and recently he posted, he created some cool astronomical design uh, using Painter and mathematics, right, Devin?
so I'll tell you what kind of happened there. So if you I met like Robert at Flutter Europe, and I was quite honestly impressed by all his work, and I went through and saw all of his stuff and like all of his code, and to me there was like way too much stuff, and I was like maybe we could just do it a little bit simpler. So I was like, let's try doing something with trigonometry, like basic functions. Let's just try it out. So I ended up making a slight mistake honestly. So I was trying to draw a normal spiral. I ended up doing a slight mistake, and out came these almost like magical creations out of maths that I simply did not know about. And over to then after that, I kind of tried to improve all of these, and yeah, so somehow I wouldn't say it's complete luck, but luck always plays a slight part when you're trying to create something.
Yeah, thank you, Devin. And for Pooja, Bhaumik, I mean, actually, I started learning from Pooja's GitHub list of those learning how to build basic widgets and these things.
Yeah,
So
the
yeah,
Flutter basic.
it's very nice to have you here. So the stage is all yours, and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. So I guess yeah, everybody can see my slides as well. Today we are going to talk about how we can contribute to the Flutter community through articles, written Flutter content. So this basically is pretty special to both of us actually, because we both came into the community through articles, writing articles. So I'll just go on and describe our process. So basically, we will divide the talk into two halves. I am going to talk about my approach and how I write articles. What do I think about when I'm writing articles? What kind of topics do I choose? And Devin will be talking about his approach, because both our approaches are completely different from each other, because we write different types of content. So let's just start with my perspective and my experience first. So my approach, I call that as a rubber duck approach. So basically, I kind of write articles as an excuse of learning something new, and use the rubber duck technique as a way of writing better content. So if you're not aware of rubber duck, it's basically a kind of approach that we developers take, where we have this inanimate object, or a rubber duck, or any person who does not know programming. And when we are stuck at a debugging problem or a bug, we explain the problem line by line to this person or object. And on the process of explaining the problem, we kind of realize the solution while explaining it. So when you're explaining or you're teaching somebody, I think that's the best time or the best way of learning something new. And I think I use the same approach of writing my articles, where I'm explaining to a rubber duck, and while I'm writing, I'm realize, oh, okay, I don't really know that part. I really don't know the other part. Maybe I should just rephrase that. And if this were to a complete beginner, maybe this person will not be able to understand this topic if I write in this way. So that is how I like use rubber duck approach to write my articles. I'll break down this more, and first talk about what do you even want to write about, what should you even write about. So these are some of the things that I like get like topics from. So suppose you have a very difficult concept in Flutter and you're unable to understand it, and probably you have cracked it after a lot of research. You will realize that there are a lot of other people who also don't understand the same topic, and that is a great opportunity for you to write about it. Then you have some XYZ topic where there are very less content or write-ups or video tutorials around the content, and you may be able to explain it better than the existing ones. So that's also another topic that you can write about. And of course, if you're working on some a project for a very long time, or some concept for a very long time, you will realize that you might have cracked a better way of doing it. So that is also something that you can share with the community, that hey, maybe instead of the usual way, why not do this in this way? You will save time and resources and blah blah blah. So these are some of the points that I like find from my development time, and I squeeze out a writing opportunity from it. So uh, example, let's just go back 2 years back when I actually started Flutter development from Android. I was working with Android for like around 4 5 years, and I was pretty accustomed to the way of writing code in Java and XML. uh, and then Flutter was basically UI in code. That was pretty different concept than Android, and it was difficult in the beginning to get accustomed to this UI in code widgets concept and all, and it took some experimentation to get to a nice stage where I could actually see a UI screen and I could just break down the layouts properly into widgets. And that's how I squeezed an opportunity where I could write this article. The first article that I've ever written in Flutter for Flutter community was this breaking layouts in rows and columns in Flutter. This was where I could explain that this is your difficulty. You can break your UI layouts in rows and column widgets in Flutter. And I took a difficult concept, which is layouts in Flutter, which is difficult for beginners who are coming into this Flutter development. It's difficult for them. And I squeezed out a writing opportunity from it. And I think that's one of my best decisions that I have taken to actually write this article, because this was one of the first article that got recognized by the community, and then I started writing more, and they were also picked up by the audience. So that was a great decision by me. Taking another article, which was parsing complex JSON in Flutter. This was also I was also coming from a time where we had in Android JSON library, and it was pretty easy to parse JSON in Android, but we did not have such libraries at that point of time in Flutter, and I was like parsing it manually, and there were plenty of mistakes. And I realized after cracking this that okay, this seems like a very difficult concept, and probably nobody, well, probably a lot of beginners will suffer to understand this concept. So I just went in and I started writing this article. This was basically, it had no good content at that point of time, and there was a difficult, and it was a difficult concept as well. So I got a writing opportunity out of it, and I published it. Today it's like the most popular article like by me. Like I have like more than 11,000 claps for this, and I still get response, like people who write that I was able to understand the behind the scenes of JSON parsing through this article, even though like it's not really required. The concept in this article was not even required for you to understand. You could, now you have so many libraries, you don't even need this concept, but it was pretty good to know what's happening behind the scenes. So that was one. And then we have the recent article that I wrote was how you could efficiently develop Flutter on existing Android app. Since I was working with this add to app thing in my company for the last 6 months, I did develop a lot of efficient methods of making like having efficient development for such a situation. And I realized maybe I can share it with people who also want to add Flutter into their existing Android app. So that was my realization that I have a better way of doing something that's also not yet published. Nobody has written about it. So that was also another opportunity I got. So first thing is that now that you know your topic, you have found a writing opportunity, how do you even start writing? A lot of people will first decide what is the platform. So like we have platforms like Medium is one of the most popular platform. It kind of got a backlash because of the paid feature, but it still is one of the most popular for technical blogs. We also have dev.to, which is also popular for technical writing. And if you want to go beyond that, there's LinkedIn articles, WordPress, educative.io as well for written tutorials. But if this is your first article and you're just starting out in your writing career or whatever, write your topic title. It does not even have to be the publishing title. Actually, this when I started writing, the title of the article was completely different than this one. This is, I'm going to be breaking down my process for the last article that I wrote, which is this one. So I went and wrote the title of, obviously, like basically what I'm going to write about, and just start with research and collect information. You will be able to finish the article much faster if you know what you need to write. What that means is that you need to, if it's a technical article, then there is a greater chance that you might have a demo project along with it. You have to note down the steps. So in this case, when I was talking about efficient steps, I was noting down what are the efficient steps that I want to mention, or the subtopics that in your relevant article. So when you know about your steps, you can apply that in your demo project. So if you know that there will be 3 steps that I need to explain in that article, I must do that in my demo project as well, so that I am sure that I know this particular topic. And of course, if there is code involved, then probably you might also need GitHub Just. So there's also a bonus for people who want to write for Flutter. You can also have Dartpad now, where you can write your code, and the output will be right in your online it's like an online compiler. So if you can write your code and it will show the output right away. So you can give the links to people and they can play around with your code without having to download it from GitHub, or like playing it and then having it in an IDE. So they can just play with your code right away, unless it's a huge project and obviously it does not fit for an online compiler. Then definitely the GitHub project should be there for sure. Another that just came in was CodePen. So now you can also have Flutter and CodePen, and you can also give them the links for the code that you're writing, and again the result will be right there, so they can play around. This CodePen can also be embedded in your articles. Dartpad probably currently cannot be embedded in your articles, but they can be embedded in your own blog, in your own websites. So that can work. Then we decided the resources. Let me just go through the process where what I did for my last article. I had 2 repositories. One was the Flutter module, and one was the Flutter Android app, where the Flutter module was attached to this existing Android app. So when I noted down my steps, that I need to do XYZ, I need to do ABC, then I started doing all that in my project, this dummy project, and made sure that whatever I'm talking about, I know everything regarding that particular topic. So once I started, like when you actually do this demo project, you will realize a lot of things that you do not know. I was working on a certain article, and I started writing and started working on the demo project, and then I realized I actually don't know much about it yet. So I will just step back and learn this topic more, and then come back to the article later. So that way, as I said, it's an excuse of learning something new. So that way, since I had already started my article, I had kind of a deadline in my head that, okay, I have an article I need to finish. So let me just learn this for sure. Because since a lot of people do this for projects, that they do projects so they can learn something new. I do projects plus articles plus speaking stuff so that I can learn something new. So steps added. Now what you need to do is complete your draft article. Now just write, like talk, pretend that you are writing to a rubber duck. Write, write, write. Do not worry about your sentence formations, your grammar, how good it's looking currently. You don't have to worry about it. Just go to the finish line. Just finish. And like, it's even fine if you like writing, sometimes people even write it with SMS language, like dot 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 and all that. It's fine if you're just writing a draft. Once you go into the finish line, then you can worry about your writing style. So figure out your comfortable way of teaching. My writing style was mostly like I used to explain a topic, and then I used to ask a question in the right article itself and answer it myself. So if somebody is actually going through the article, I know that this person will have this question in their head, so I actually answer it right in the article as a question answer format sometimes. And so that like by the end of the article, they have most of the questions, at least the ones that I had in my mind while I was learning, answered. So that is my writing style. So that is how I figured out my comfortable way of teaching. By this process, you will realize that sometimes your comfortable way of teaching might not be writing at all. So writing, like a lot of people might have realized that I think my comfortable way of teaching is video tutorials or like podcasts. But that is fine. You can pivot. You can definitely pivot to a different content creation process. Basically, everything that I said till now is going to be same for all your content creating form, all your content creation form. It will be same. You have to have your demo project. You have to note down your subtopics. You have to have a title. But after this, if you don't want to continue writing an article, you can pivot to a video tutorial or a podcast. It is fine if that is your comfortable way of teaching. Now that you're done writing, I think it's time to find a home to your article and publish. So you, as we talked about, these are the platforms that you can explore for having your article published, and just find the right platform. Like if you're writing something about UI or like business, maybe Medium is not the right platform. Maybe LinkedIn is the right platform. So you can just explore the platform according to the popularity for that domain. So in our case, for Flutter, definitely Medium and Dev.to is two of the popular platforms. So you can definitely have your articles published there. And after that, once you have published, I think it's time to like distribute it everywhere. But like understand that you might not get good response immediately. Like it actually, I like before my first article in Flutter, I actually wrote 2 years of articles in Android, in UI, and they got really bad response. So it for me, I would say I actually wrote articles for 2 years, and then on the third year, some magic happened. So definitely you can like stop expecting that it will be a overnight success in like for your first article. You have to wait. Sometimes it takes like months to get back the right response from the audience. So definitely wait. That's how I did. And this is what my process is for my creative writing process. And now we will want Devin to explain his creative writing process and how he got his recognition from writing articles for the Flutter community.
Hi. Thanks for that presentation. And I just want to tell you a bit about how this talk kind of came to be. Is that a lot of people are now starting to come into the community and write and quite a bit, like quite a lot of fantastic content. But a lot of them are like a lot of people have just like asked me about like where do you publish, what do you do, or like how do you keep consistency. So I just decided to give like at least my view of it. Obviously, it's not going to be a perfect one. But so what we did was why this is divided into kind of two parts is that when I asked Pooja, because she would be the perfect person to, because both of us started writing around the same time. I think she was before me. Both of us started writing in alpha when there was not a lot of documentation. We started writing, and at that time, why I started writing is because the content I was writing was simply not there, to be honest. It wasn't a play for, it was not a play for having a lot of viewers or followers. It was just that, quite honestly, when Flutter was in alpha, I completely burned out trying to understand it. So I was like, that should happen to no one else. That's why I will write something that kind of covers that. So when I asked Pooja, we kind of wrote down our approaches and like independently, and we realized they're not actually similar. And so we just decided to do like two different kind of sections to this talk. And so this is kind of this is my take on the same process that she mentioned. And even the presentations, you will actually notice how our forms of writing and presentation are kind of like actually how our writing actually influences our presentation and things like that. So like she had the rubber duck philosophy, I have a slightly different one, which is like just dive deep. I mean, I don't like writing for the sake of writing, and probably like no one does. But in general, when I believe that when you understand something, to it's like as far as you can understand. Obviously, you have a level, you plateau, and once you understand something to a pretty deep level, it's much easier for you to actually write about it, and you are more confident about your writing as well, because at least you know that, okay, I know something about this. So my philosophy is dive deep and then find content out of it. So I believe content emerges, content is there, you just have to discover it, right? So I just want to take you through the stages of my writing process and how they make it easy for me. So these are going to be slightly more rigid than the ones like Pooja had, which are slightly more freeform, and like she can do that, I cannot. But the first stage that a lot of people struggle, I struggle with, is ideation. How do you actually get ideas for your presentation, right? So is the your articles, and that is a pretty good question, because everyone has a different answer to this. But my simple thing is, if this is your first article, forget about all of these rules. Whatever I say, just disregard it, because your first article will actually teach you a lot more than, like, you don't need to rely upon a lot of these rules. You have enough to learn about without worrying about so much more. How, do I have to follow this or that? Or it just becomes really hard. So the first rule is, if you want to write your first article, forget about rules, right? So how do about ideation? How do ideas originate for me? I try not to take an approach where we have like, I sit for a day. I'm like, okay, what am I going to write? I mean, I want to write an article, but I don't know what about. And that has taken quite a bit of my days. So quite a few of my days. So I kind of decided I'm not going to do that anymore. And I kind of started looking for, where am I having difficulties in handling or in maybe Flutter errors, Flutter bugs, or just something I wish to explore further, right? So I kind of try to derive, wherever I got stuck, I want to write an article on that. As in, you know how you're just stuck on this bug like a really long time, like an unnecessarily long time, and then you find the answer, and it's like kind of satisfying to your soul. And writing an article about it makes it much easier, but because at least you feel like you spend that time on something genuine, and that something came out of that. So that's why it just also gives me more, like, just more satisfaction in if I ever get stuck in Flutter. And the main thing is, don't worry about being original. That does not mean go and plagiarize all the articles out there. What that means is, when you write something, there's almost always going to be articles out there that are similar. Thankfully, me and Pooja came in early enough that a lot of it could be original enough on its own. But even if today I write something, it's almost definitely going to borrow something. And if you, by the way, if you know you're borrowing something, it's okay to declare it. But just keep in mind that it's okay if don't fuss about, okay, is there something already like that? You might have slightly different thing that somebody else might get inspired from. So don't worry about that. And also, yeah. So whenever I'm maybe in writer's block, or I cannot think of an idea, I start a series. So the deep dive. So like my philosophy, I just decided to write a series based on that. So I wrote a bunch of deep dive articles, and there are more than these, but these are just a few of those examples. And they were not. All they did was like take one component and explore it as much as you can. Simple as that. And so the thing is, when do I write these articles? I don't actually decide a pattern. I don't decide a series. I don't. I just what I do is, the first component I'm stuck on, I write an article on that. So for example, there was a floating action button one. I had to do a project where I wanted like a nice square floating action button, and I did not know how to do that. So I decided to look into it. Then I looked more and more and more, and in the end, I kind of got to a point where I knew, like, I felt like I knew enough to actually do a whole article on it. So when in doubt, start a series. It helps you do a lot of stuff. So this is the second stage of my process, which is decide the type of article that you're going to write. Every article is different. If you see, the first is like there can be announcements. So for example, we are launching Flutter like 2.0 or 3.0 or whatever. The second is opinion, and there's many more of these, right? So there's a type of article, and deciding the type of article can actually help you in getting the point across better. For example, so the main rule here is no article can be appealing to everyone. And when I no, I mean a slightly different thing when I say appealing. Imagine this, right? I come into the Medium app or whatever you're using. I go into that app, and what happens is I open the app and I see, like, Flutter, like a huge updates, like huge updates released for Flutter. I go and read it because I'm interested in it. But would I want to go into it again? No, because I've read it once. So some articles are one-time reads, like announcements and stuff like that. Some articles are not necessarily something you want to read instantly, but something you want to come back to. And I tend to go towards this come back to kind of thing because, in my opinion, that just helps more people. And well, it gets more readers as well, because I write what I like to call the read and refer articles. So for example, the articles that we had, like, a deep dive about floating action button. It might be a nice read, it may not be. I don't know, you can comment on that better. But when you actually stuck on a floating action button bug, or you want to know something about it that you may not know, you will come to that. The next time you might face something like that, you'll come to that again. So those are what I call read and refer articles. So I believe those are, so I tend to go on more of that track than having a single thing. But now that I know what kind of article I'm going to write, that gives me more clarity on what kind of points I should pursue. Should I have like eye candy? Should I have like, almost a clickbait title, or should I just have something that will as in that people will search for, or something like that? So decide your type of article. It'll give you much more clarity. Yeah, and this is really, I think Pooja slightly talked about this. Choose your platform, publication platform. Do this before you write an article, and there's a very special reason for this. Not all platforms are created equal. The reason is, think about it this way. LinkedIn articles, right? You see a lot of people writing these, but you see very few in search results. Have you ever searched for Flutter or something and a LinkedIn result showed up? Probably not. It might have. It maybe just never happened to me. But at least we know that, let's say, Medium articles are much more popular. Not much more popular, but their SEO is much better than LinkedIn is. So the point is, you need to understand what kind of people you're going to appeal to, and where those people are going to approach from. If I'm going to post, if I know that the people who are going to read my article are only going to come from Twitter, it doesn't matter what I do. But if I want people to go to my articles through Google, then I have to search for, like, think about SEO. So LinkedIn is good, but you have to make them shorter. Medium, you have to make it medium, and then your own blog is a slightly tricky story. You can make your own blog, and Medium has quite a quite a lot of criticism, and that is all valid, to be honest. But your own blog does not or will not get the amount of appeal, as in by the search engines, that Medium will. So even if you have more freedom, make sure that make sure you know what you are doing, because your own blog will not get as many reads as something like Medium will. So your content size and structure may also be dependent on platform. So this is especially for India, this is a very big point. Define your audience. Can you tell me who is most likely, I'm not saying the only person, but who is the most likely to actually click on one of your articles? So if you know who is going to read it, you know who's going to like it, or who should like it. So if my article is it's geared towards beginners, and then I know what kind of language I want to use. If it's geared to professionals, then I know I don't want to over explain, because then you're wasting their time and they might not continue reading it. So it's there can be a general article. The problem with general articles is that it might be in a gray zone where it's neither like it's not really appealing to anyone in particular, so it just kind of dies out in the like, where no Venn diagrams intersect. So that might happen. It might happen that the article is appealing to everyone. We don't know. But most likely, if you gear it towards you, if you know what group is most likely to read it, it's better to. And one more thing is, some groups are more likely to share it as well. If you see, this is from my own thing, I'm not making any kind of comments on groups as a whole, but students are more likely to share than direct professionals are. They might, but then again, you have to balance out. You just have to figure out how is your article actually going to reach the most people. So making, and if you know your audience, again, you can make your language much more suitable towards them. And so this is the obvious stage, right? You have to write an article. The main thing is, if you follow a specific process, you will not actually you will not actually suffer through the article process. Because I used to write very, very slow because I just didn't know, like, I'm like, I used to write one line and suddenly, will this be well understood? Will it just be too simple? And I had these just fears because I don't know who this is appealing to. So suddenly, first of all, when you're writing, if you follow process, you will not suffer through a lot of things, through a lot of the concern that we have. And the main thing is, be yourself. You don't need to imitate someone else just because they're doing well, because ultimately what people are going to like is your style. Using other styles are good on them. Using your styles, you can actually build up a following, or people will like you because they're done by you. And over time, you can obviously improve yourself or improve on what you do, but just make sure that you don't drown out yourself in just a chase of fancy articles or something like that. And the last thing is, if your article is like code heavy, if there's a lot of code, don't just make an article that is a gist. As in, don't just paste your entire code into the article and be like, okay, yeah, that's my article as a whole. And because people are annoyed, you cannot read code on Medium. Like most likely, unless absolutely necessary, use a gist, use a small block, just like make sure your code is appropriate and not. And you don't want them to copy the entire thing. You want to teach them something. And if you want them to copy the entire thing, make a gist, make sure that is nice and tidy where it is, right? So the main thing is, when writing, don't try to completely follow someone else or make your blog about something like code, or just, yeah, in general, make sure you're concise and to the point. And the last stage is something that I feel that most people get the most wrong. Because the thing is, a lot of people have great writing skills, but if you think about it, I mean, a lot of people, like even my own articles, right? I agree. If I write an article, I get a let's say higher number of people reading it instantly, making Medium or another service wanting to recommend it, and that happens, and I don't deny that. But the thing is, you have, when you're writing your own article, I have when I'm writing my own article, I have this one rule: I never share with my friends what I do. So I like know a lot of them, like most of the time my friends don't know that I even write or anything like that. The reason is, I want to have the most organic growth in the correct circles, because then all these algorithms, Google, Medium, or whatever, they can make the association that, okay, Flutter developers or the people who are interested in Flutter are reading his articles, hence we should recommend to more people. If you just share it in your, I don't know, your college circles or things like that, what happens is, then you get a mess of people who are trying to write articles, sorry, read your article, and then no one knows who to recommend it to. So the algorithm will try to recommend it to random people, and suddenly it all goes down, because the next person may not be interested in Flutter and they won't read it, and the algorithm's like, we did not get an impression, hence it is not that interesting. So make sure you keep that in mind about, like, when you're writing about how will the algorithms or how will the services treat the article, right? And the last thing is, like, use social media well, because and I myself do post my links or article links in a lot of groups. I do not, again, I do not deny that. But a lot of people I see like just continuously like don't paste a link 10 times, because what happens is, I agree, when we write an article, we kind of paste it, right? And we feel bad when it does not get the response that we need. And so we just paste it again, and then this becomes spam. It's okay, some articles do well, some articles do not, and that's a part of the entire process. So use it well, share it conservatively, but do share it with the correct groups on Reddit, on Facebook, on a lot of maybe Twitter. If you have the correct circles, your articles are going to get more recommended as a whole. So this is my entire process of right from ideation to actually distributing that article. And I hope the rules that we have, like will help you. Pooja's work, my work, or like this talk. I hope it helps you. So I guess that is it for this article. So thank you for having us. And do we have any questions for us? So let me just check. Can you just add Pooja back?
Hi Deven. Hi Pooja.
Hi.
It was great. And we have some questions for you. So the first question goes to Pooja. How to become a Google developer expert on Flutter? What are the steps we can follow, and some of the helpful tips? And just to add, you inspired him.
Okay. So I guess I've answered this question like a million times already. But yeah, there is interesting fact. There is an article on that as well. So I actually have the article. I can share it here, but most if I just say in small format would be that definitely the only way you can actually become a GDE is that if you actually care about contributing for the community. If you are only there for the name or for the perks that we get, then I think your definitely approach is wrong. Only people who have always been not selfish in sharing for the community, or they have always tried to find ways in making sure that everybody has some tutorial, like how Devin talked about that in the beginning we had so less content for Flutter. Like we were struggling with a lot of things, and we realized that we actually can help people who are coming into the community with the knowledge that we might have struggled with, so that the next person does not struggle with it. That kind of thinking can actually help you get this recognition. Rest of the things I think can be you can get from the article, what was the process and all that. But this is the main ideology for you to become GD. So yeah.
Okay, great. So second question is for Deven. What you would prefer for publishing your content? An existing platform or your own personal blog website?
So I've been trying to see. I've been going back and forth on this myself. The thing is, Medium itself is a very, let's just say, controversial platform for now, right? The problem is they put up a paywall. So for example, they earlier they used to recommend your articles if they were good. Now, unless you're in a paywall, unless you make your article paid, they will not make it like they will not recommend it. And the funny part is it's not available in India, so you will not actually get paid. The only thing is you put it behind the paywall, and that is all. So the thing is, I thought of moving it to my own blog. But the thing is, Medium has almost, I have to commend them on their SEO. For example, there was an article I wrote about Java versus Python very long back, my very first article, right? Garnered 1,000 views, not much, not it. I come back to it 4 months later, has 70,000 views. I'm like, that was a really bad article. It does not deserve a single bit of it. But the thing is, Medium's SEO is so good, it promoted it to the top of the ladder. So really the question is, do you want to have let's just say a brand recognition, as in let's say my name, or something built around me, or do you just want for your content to be widely known? And that's a personal question. I'm not saying anything is good or bad. For now, I'm sticking to Medium because, quite honestly, it's just a bit too much work. I have my own website. I just haven't had the time to actually make it or like completely build it up. So that's why I'm not. But I'm definitely considering it as well, if Medium goes even worse on their policies.
Okay, that's great. And the last question is for both speakers. Using hashtags inside an article improves the SEO or not?
So to be honest, what I've seen, like I have, what I've seen is if you can make the title exactly what people would search, they are actually the best indicator. So that's why if you see like, some of my articles, they're not floating action buttons, they're floating action button or things like that. Like if you imagine what things people would search, that gives you the best SEO over something like you put into the article. That's my take. You can ask me that first.
Yeah, I think it's similar. I actually never thought of the hashtag thing ever, but I always think what would be the title and how, how could it be useful while you're searching for it? Like when I had written the how to write Flutter, sorry, how to learn Flutter article, the name was completely different and it was a very witty title, something that I first had. But then I realized, okay, I think that will not have much effect. Like because when people go into the search, they will like how to learn Flutter, they will just write that. And if I have that title as my article, I think I will gain a little bit SEO right there. So that's how I changed my article completely, because thinking in terms of how users will search. So that's the only thing I do for SEO. I think rest I don't have not thought about hashtags at all.
I agree. Witty titles do not work. Just go for what they search for. And trust me, like the ones I have, I genuinely have like 7 or 8 with really simple titles with over 200,000 views. And the ones I have, like I am actually proud of, they have like 10,000, 15,000. I mean, it feels bad, but then you have to kind of do it that way.
Yeah.
So it depends
If you
on
want the
audience.
witty titles, I think you
How
can
they
do it
take
in your like talks. Titles
Yeah.
and talks that can be witty, but not in articles.
Okay. So Poonam, it's yours.
That makes sense. Yeah. Pooja, we are really, really grateful to you and thankful to you that you came up, and Devin as well. Like the way I think we all will be on the same page for this sentiment that if 10 years back, if we imagine if GDG would not be there, if we would not have gotten this much of opportunities to platform ourselves, to connect with people, the right people from whom we can actually learn things, this could not have been this way easier. Because earlier, getting campus placements, company, these were all the typical and stationary stuff that we were quite like, that's what we had in our heads. And nowadays it's like, okay, you learn, you share, you allow, you contribute, you let everyone collaborate, and you make a great team, which is again not limited to India and a specific country, any state. Even the community like this one, we weren't knowing each other, but we came up like, okay, let's do something, and then we could gather all of you. So thank you so much, for turning up. The content that you delivered was
Okay. We have one more question
wow.
for both of our speakers.
Yeah.
So, what is the longest time you have taken to write an article?
Okay. I think most of my articles have mostly been a week long for sure, because yeah, I know. Because I like writing the article maybe just like a day, but the process before the article actually takes a week, that I'm thinking of the ideation. Oh, I chose this topic, now I have to work on the project first, like the demo project, and then I have to make sure that I have all the information correctly, and then I actually start writing the proper articles, which probably takes in a half a day or something, because I know all my information that I need to put in. But yeah, a week definitely is I expect.
I think I can speak for both of us when I say we have at least 10 to 15 drafts that we have not. We have a lot of content in there, but either we do not want the world to see it, or maybe it's just an incomplete, or maybe we're just ashamed of it. We don't know. But the point is, like, the actual writing part, it does not take long. Genuinely, it takes 1 day max, if really large, 2 days. But the process before that is that's why we kind of did this talk, because the writing part, it genuinely, it's like 1 day. And I think Scott Stroll, when we were talking and he was spending like 4 days on writing it, and he just went like berserk when we told him like we just need 1 day. I don't think we've never need more. And after that, he just stopped talking about all the lens that we need.
Yeah, that's true. I actually have a lot of drafts that I have not touched. Like I have touched, I wrote in midway. I realized that okay, either I'm not liking it or I don't know about it. So I just it's in the trash or something. So yeah.
And you feel bad about it. I mean, it's like they're there
But yeah, I was going
every
through
time
it.
you go writing. When you have a new idea, they come there and then you're like 15 page list, like a list of 15 things below it, and then you feel bad, but then you just have to like cross without like pretending that you never noticed them. So that
Yeah.
kind of happens when you start writing a new thing.
So when
Same.
you open your Medium profile, first what you see is the draft. Then you go to your published content.
No, first I actually open like I don't see the draft at all. Like I always open the URL where I have my either the last written article, and I see the drafts like very rarely because as Deven said that it's actually sad to see that I could not finish it because maybe even today those articles made sense, but it's just the time I'm not getting, or it's just like incomplete information in my head. So I feel sad about it. But yeah, they are still there somewhere.
We can expect a rain full of great content still. Wow.
Yeah, I guess.
Hardworking people, super hardworking. Great. Thank you so much, Deven. Thank you so much, Pooja. Yeah, this was like, yeah,
Thank
like
you for having us.
if we don't know documentation, we are blank. Whatever hard, whatever good coder you are, if you don't know how to document things, if you can convey that to somebody, you're winning the battle. So you're
Yeah.
not only doing your part, you're not just being selfish, you're letting everyone, okay, this is I have done, you can try that as well. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully we'll see you again, not in a
Thank
virtual
you for
event
having us.
again. Maybe sometime next time we'll have you in our town probably, and we'll be able to see you face to face, and we can have more conversations, can learn
Yeah.
more about you.
Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the up next speaker we have. He's someone who believes in making education open for everyone. She believes in we should be resourceful. A human individual should be resourceful. It should be kind. It should be thoughtful. We should be understanding and open enough and curious to know and learn things, to think beyond boundaries. She believes in we should be inclusive enough regardless of any kind of discrimination, gathering together, supporting them with all the possible resources and with real and genuine efforts. She's no less than an inspiration to all of us because if I consider the only the organizing team, whenever we thought of we want to pitch something, we want to have a meetup organized, if it is specifically even no, if I only focus on Flutter things, she's Flutter enthusiast for sure. How she makes up her free time, she writes blog, she writes about how you can be more and more into that, how you can grow more, and how you can technically be more sound in that. So she's someone, as I said, trying to like putting all her efforts to make education open for everyone, to help people to speak more about it, to be more vocal, and to be more strong in what they are doing. And she's like promoting and encouraging everybody on the up next level altogether. So she's now none other than Nikita Gandhi, currently a community manager at Google Dev. And yeah, I can say, Nikita, you make roundos as you have written in your Twitter bio. So probably, guys, if you are going to able to see her anytime, you can just ask her to make me some dosa. So she's project coordinator at Google. She works with Google AI team, and she's also coordinated and making education programs for different categories, including explore machine learning programs. She makes content for university students. Currently managing GDZ and GDZ cloud communities in India. But you guys know what GDZ is, but still, because there would be somebody who is like listening on behalf of their siblings or friends event to this event, they might not be knowing what is GDZ. So it stands for Google Developers Group. So she's a part of this. She's managing that in India. By joining a Google developer group, you connect with local developers with interest in tech, learn new skills, and grow your tech knowledge. So basically, I won't take much time of her because she has something really exciting that even I am so excited to learn about. So today, India has 36 GDG chapters across the country. A part of Google's machine learning program in India, she is with an ambition to train the enthusiastic university students in India with concepts of machine learning, like scratching to that more. She's extremely passionate about spreading technical knowledge with masses online and offline. Her source of bread and butter would be her hobbies run in parallel. I believe the way you introduce yourself, that is no less than a dynamic personality that we can like, oh, she's a celebrity. And you are worth that. You deserve that. We are really flattered and we are really privileged to have you as that you would be ending this small event that we thought of, but it's kind of turning a big one. So I will let you conduct that one and passing on to you. So official closer from us. Moving on to the last speaker of Flutter Conference 2020, ending the biggest online event of the year, Nikita Gandhi, delivering the closing note. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Poonam. That was really kind information, a kind introduction of yours. And I really like the way you have organized the events with a series of dynamic talks. Who would think about a session on how to write blogs, how to write effective blogs? Who would speak about architectures? Who would speak about state management? From speakers just not in India, but there were speakers from outside India who woke up early, probably because of the difference in time zones. So it was an amazing event, and I cannot thank you organizers enough for all the hard work that you've put in. I'm glad that I'm continuing the session after Deven. Probably he's the one I started my journey with Flutter with. So we usually used to have a lot of debates which technology we would choose for our app ideas. And then we used to have a lot of debates which we thought of putting it into blogs, and then why don't we ask people what they think about it. And then we just kept on experimenting things like crazy, and that's how I got engrossed with Flutter. And the beauty of Flutter, if you've already tried it, says it all, that once you're into it, you're never going to come out of that beautiful world. So as Poonam mentioned, my name is Nikita, and I'm from the Developer Relations India team. I work as a community manager for GDG program in India. Prior to that, I was managing Explore Machine Learning program, which trained around 30,000 students across the country. GDGs are something that are really close to my heart, and I have been into communities for more than 5 years. I started my journey in the communities as a student organizer, and then it went on with different roles and capacities. So right from an organizer to an attendee to a volunteer at some events, communities have been something that I have always kept myself engaged with. While you all are listening, there are 3.39 million people who are affected with COVID-19. 1/3 of the global population is under lockdown, which means they are not able to move out of their houses. They have been suffering from mental insecurities. There have been a lot of physical restrictions on people, especially think about the old age people or young kids who need the outside playground or fresh air to breathe in. 4 out of 5 people have lost their jobs worldwide. Everything has come to a halt all of a sudden. A lot of businesses have turned down. Think about the situations where everything was hardware dependent. Think about the print media. Think about places which required people to work in person. That has completely come to a halt right now, and all of it has happened all of a sudden. Nobody amongst us imagined that we would come to a situation where we could only step out of our houses to buy essential services. Think about the animals who are dying because of hunger. And 270 million people are facing hunger right now. This is an estimation by the World Health Organization. So a lot of people are not even getting food for 2 times a day. So I count myself lucky that I could sit at home and talk to intelligent people like you who are interested and making their time productive and learning something. So I hope you made the most out of the last 3 days. While this is a closing note, I'd not wanted to dive into the technical aspects, but I definitely would like to talk to you about how can Flutter help in product development. All right. So, sorry if you got a little serious or you got lost thinking about COVID, but let's come back to the Flutter world. So, what is Flutter? Flutter helps building a SDK which runs on all the platforms. So, Flutter is portable, multi-platform SDK. So, you can paint pixels on any type of screen, may that be a desktop or a website or a mobile app which runs on Android or iPhone. You can build applications or softwares for all types of devices. We live in an era where almost every device is connected to internet. They say that 560 million devices are connected to internet in India, and 6292.2 million use mobile internet, which means the internet is going to be flaky. Sometimes internet works at the speed of 4G, and sometimes it's not even 1G. So you need to be considerate about the internet issues or bandwidth that are respectively changing in different environments and different situations. We switch from one device to another. Right now, I'm on my laptop. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to use my mobile phone. I may switch to my tablet in next few hours. So that's how we keep switching from one device to another. And there are so many devices with different sizes that are coming to the market. So from mobile apps to desktop to website to watches, it's important that we build for all types of platforms. And what does Flutter do is it offers code support to provide services to all these type of platforms. So basically, with the emerging world, it's important to bring in an experience for the users so that they feel that they are a part of the software or the application that they are using, which means you need to bring in beautiful UI. The experience has to be pleasant. Consider you going to a house which is colored in black. How will you feel? In spite of the fact that we all like dark mode, it's gonna be unpleasant. We all like pleasing colors, right? That is what user experiences. Once they come to the house should look neat and clean. We want all the things, although we all love making mess around, but once we get into the house, we want things to be kept in the right place. That is user interface and user experience that you're creating for someone who's using your platform. And you need to bring in a flexible environment without letting them feel the change of environment. So if I'm using an app on website right now and later on I feel like I'm going to use this application over and over, why don't I just download an application for it? The user should feel similar, that they are using the same app which was built for the same purposes. So Flutter offers to build apps for everyone. Flutter helps to design for ambient computing, which means you can design apps for all the platforms. So designing beautiful apps. Consider that a client comes to you and says they want to build an app for some interesting use case. You really like the idea. But what is the first question that you ask the client? What is the first question that comes to your mind? Is it the platform or the functionality? So do you ask, do you want to build app for Android or iPhone, or do you just want to build a website? Or you ask, what are the features that you want to build in the app? What is the first question? I'm talking about the first or the 0th question that comes to your mind. Of course, we all care about what platform we want to provide the solution. But Flutter doesn't want you to think about all these things at all. They want you to drive in creativity. How do you want the app to look like? How do you want the user to feel like when they use your application? How do you want to customize experiences for different types of users? think about the user interface and user experience that you're building to the user when they're using your application. I'm repeatedly talking about experience, and that really matters the most. No matter how awesome you implement your functionality, unless the user understands or feels the experience of the functionality that you're building, no app is complete. And that is why it's time to not limit yourself with the platform you want to build the application, time to not limit yourself with the functionality that you want to provide, time to not limit yourself with the user interface that you can build. And hence Flutter offers you a platform where you can build user rich experiences, you can add beautiful animations, you can build flexible UI that runs on different platforms and makes the user feel as if it's running for that specific platform. Which means if you're running an app for an iPhone versus you running an app for Android, whenever you run the app on individual platforms, users should feel like they're running the app for particular operating system only, and it should not feel like it's a hybrid app which is running on top of something, which may also affect the performance of the application. And hence, design for everyone. Design your application in a way that you once write the code, it can run on every platform that you want to build the application for. All right. So these are the 4 USPs when they speak about Flutter, or once you get into Flutter, once you start deep diving into Flutter, these are the 4 reasons you won't stop thinking about Flutter. One is beautiful apps. As I spoke about, the user interface and the user experience that you will be building is going to be amazing. The transitions are going to be smooth. The animations that you add are going to be beautiful. It's very easy to implement animations in Flutter. You can add different fonts. You can implement material design, which is a design standard by Google. Or it also is easy to use a color palette with different color scales in Flutter. Faster performance. Flutter apps run as fast as 60 FPS. If you've seen the 2D Dimension app, you would be amazed with the type of animations that they have implemented. And this app is built using Flutter. So Flutter gives a very, very fast performance. And the reason being, it runs on an engine called Skia, which is built out of Dart. And Flutter is also made of Dart. So because they are running on the same languages, there is an integration between the languages that happens faster, which improves the performance and helps building apps that run very, very smooth and faster. Flutter has this feature called as hot reload. So basically, if you want to change a particular portion of your app without rerunning the entire application, Flutter has something called as hot reload. So what hot reload does is, once you make changes to the app, say you have built a counter app which increments the counter every time the user clicks on a button. Now you want to change the logic and you want to build a decremental app where every time user clicks on the button, the counter goes on decrementing. You can easily reflect these changes on the user screen because of this function or feature called as hot reload. It's lightning fast, and this brings in a lot of happiness and contentment in lives of developers. And open source BSD license. So Flutter has open sourced its license, which means you can easily raise issues on GitHub. You can contribute to the repository. You can suggest any changes that you want, and you can implement anything with your own ease. And there are 1 billion users who are using Flutter apps right now, which means to all the apps that are available on Play Store or iPhone Store, Apple Store, all these apps have more than 1 billion users right now. So think about the number of people who are using apps built with Flutter right now. So this is not to tell you that, hey, Flutter has become so popular, but while you're building apps using Flutter, think that the user is going to be, the fan base is already so big. So this is going to be an experience that you want to think about to build for more than 1 billion users. So think how can you build tailored experiences for more than 1 billion users. Flutter is also rated as the fastest growing open source project on GitHub. Yes, it is amongst the top 10 GitHub repos as listed on GitHub survey that came out recently. And it is amongst the most popular language on LinkedIn preferred by software engineers. So Flutter came to its stable version in 2017, and in such a small amount of time, it has become so popular in so many places. All right, with so many interesting facts, let's take a chill pill and get back to our childhood days. Do you remember any of these cartoons? And how many of us spent hours together watching them? Why did we admire them so much? Hair color was yellow, or someone wore colorful pants, or someone did not wear a shirt at all, but we still spent so much of time watching them. So look at the creativity in the appearance, the way the two cartoons interacted with each other. We felt like they're actually talking to each other. And that was just not our childhood innocence that we accepted that they're actually talking to each other, but the way the interaction was, the way the virtual looked real to us, kept us engrossed for hours together on platforms like these. Which means that we created a virtual reality on a digital platform, and that too kept us engaged and engrossed. Why so? It's all because of the flexible animations, it is because of the performance, the way two of them interacted, the color combinations. So if Mickey Mouse wore a red color t-shirt, Minnie Mouse was wearing something in contrast. So it always kept the visual aesthetics that came in front of us. That is what kept us engrossed all the time. Do you agree with me? All right. And now that we have grown up, we've come to a digital world. Slowly or suddenly, everything is moving to an online era, which means think about demonetization times. All of a sudden, we came to know that a few notes are not going to work after 8 o'clock in the evening. So all of us had to wait outside the ATM to get hard cash. But Paytm took an advantage of this situation, and suddenly Paytm became popular. Did Paytm think that all of a sudden it's going to get so much of users in such a small amount of time? Or Flipkart, which is India's largest internet company, its value is 2,500 million USD. So many transactions happen online. While so many transactions are happening online, everybody cares about their money and their transactions while they are using your application. And if the platform is not good, if the user interface does not look good, if the functionality does not satisfy the user, they are going to quit using your application, right? So think about, you have built an app which is similar to Paytm, but the user interface is really good. Do you not feel like switching to that application? It may have happened to us while we are using Google Pay. Because we can transact money on a click of a button, we have stopped using. One of the reasons we have moved towards Google Pay is because of the easiness of transactions, the ease of transacting money from one account to another, right? Cool. So yes, from simple applications to hobby apps to making transactions online, Flutter has functionalities that can help you integrate payment gateways. It can help you implement different types of animations. It can make your app look really beautiful. And yes, it works at a very fast pace. So when someone is trying to transact money, they don't have to wait for a very long time for that transaction to happen. Else, they might either lose interest or the bank server time is going to go out. So to make sure that this does not happen, Flutter gives you functionality that helps you to maintain faster speed. It helps you to integrate payment gateways using third-party integration, as well as it helps creating efficient user experiences. All right. So we spoke about UI, we spoke about creating user interface. Now coming back to integrating Flutter to create a complete functionality. So if think about building an application which provides everything from start, like from logging in to log out to performing different types of activities like sending notifications, sending push messages, to creating publicity or publicizing your app. You want to perform everything, right? So this is one thing that you may want to try out, called as Firebase. So in a traditional way, if you want to create a database and connect it to your front end, that is to your Flutter app, you can create a server in between which can talk to the database at the back end. So the servers are basically the service providers or middlemen who help you to talk to your database. Now, what Firebase does is your user interface to your backend. These functionalities or services comes in a package. So you can opt in for different packages that you want to use from what Firebase provides, and you can make your app complete. So you can use, for example, Firebase authentication feature. You can use Firebase dynamic links. You can use Firebase FCM, push notifications, and there are many services which you can go to the Firebase site and explore. So now sounds like a complete app. So we spoke about user interface, we spoke about animations, we spoke about implementing the backend so that your app becomes complete. But no cooking is complete without garnishing. And in the same way, you need to create your garnishing that everybody feels like eating. So you need to garnish your dish in a way that everybody feels like it's its own native dish. For example, someone who really admires eating Indian food, no matter how amazing Chinese food or for that matter Italian cook that you cook, they're not going to like it. So some people like dal, some people like rasam. Yes, there are a few masalas here and there that makes them like either of the dish, but for that matter, if you garnish it in a way that sambar and dal look similar, maybe it solves your problem to address both type of tastes. So similar way design for everyone. So if for example, we all are used to having an enter button towards the right side of the screen. Wherever we finish typing, we want the enter button towards the right corner. And all of a sudden, if you push the enter button towards the topmost left corner, people might get confused. They might not be able to find that button at all. Or for example, if you give options like, for example, which were usually placed in a website towards the left corner, so the menu bar which usually appeared on the left corner, if all of a sudden it comes from top to bottom, it's going to create confusion amongst users. So create an experience which is built for everyone, because as we spoke, there are 1 billion people who are going to use your application. So think about an old age person, think about a teenager, think about people like our age, think about people of our parents' age. Everybody, if you want to build an application that you want everybody to use, then you need to think about the designing aspects, which is for everyone. fonts, colors, animations. So not everybody is going to understand fancy fonts. Not everybody would like bright colors. Some of us like red and green, which looks really cool for us. Some of us may think that it's too old fashioned. Some of us may feel there are two dark colors which are coming together. So it's really cool to think about different types of users and create a comfort or soothing experience for all type of categories. And hence there is something called as Flutter's material design, which is inbuilt and which is by default selected when you're building your Flutter applications, which means most of the apps are built using material design. So what is material design? Basically, material design is a coding standard, design standard built by Google. So you can choose different fonts from there, which are standard and could be readable for different types of audiences. It shows how a standard headline should look like, how much is the height of the font that should be there, how evenly one alphabet should be placed next to each other. Sometimes these things sound very obvious to us, but if you are not cautious about these things while you're building the application, it may disappoint a user and it may disappoint a category of users, which is going to be a huge loss for the application you're building. So create experiences that matter the most. So for example, we are used to using typical icons which are commonly used everywhere, and they are obvious to us and are obvious to everyone. So try incorporating those type of icons in your app. Color palette. Google's material design also has color palette, so you can try different combinations over there to see which color merges with another. It gives you a material design coding standard, so how much height a raise button should have, how much shadow it should have. So just to maintain a professional look to your beautiful functional application, these things are something that you can keep in mind while you're building your application. While we all know that there are so many people who have already started using Flutter, Google itself is using Flutter for its smart display. It is also used in Assistant. Apart from that, Google Ads is using Flutter for its apps. Groupon, Dream11, BMW, Alibaba Group, Philips, Emmer, all these huge giants have already started using Flutter in their production level applications. This is an interesting video that you all might like to watch. All right. So this is a beautiful video that I really enjoy watching. Give me 1 minute. Yes. So that was a summary about why you should start using Flutter if you haven't already. And while you're learning Flutter from different resources, like you're taking help of blogs, you're taking help of videos, probably you're already watching videos from MTech Viral, or you're already reading Pooja's or Devin's blogs, or a lot of the blogs which are there on Flutter community page. There are a few blogs written by me as well, in case you want to have a look. So these are the resources that are helping you learn. But there is always an opportunity for you to contribute back to the community who is giving you so many learning opportunities. You can join the Discord channels whenever you're stuck in your development. Ask questions over there. There is GitHub repo, so you can contribute to the repository. There is r/Flutter Dev. So as Devin and Pooja mentioned, you can push your article over there. You can get more visibility amongst the like-minded people. You can create packages or libraries that could be reused by other developers. You can make videos on YouTube that other people may take benefit out of. You can write articles on Medium, and there are a lot of opportunities that you can contribute to. So make the most out of what you have. Create a learning habit. Code every day so that it becomes a habit for you. It's not going to be easy. It may not come for the first few days, first few weeks, first few months. Some of you may learn it very quickly. Some of you may not learn it quickly. But that is okay. It's okay to be not okay. It's okay to be not be normal when you're learning. So maybe you learn at a slower speed, but that's fine. There is always an opportunity where you can go back and relearn and make yourself perfect. So take time unless you're getting towards perfection. Make the most out of the community events that are happening, so you can connect with like-minded people, you can connect with experts. So that gives you a lot of confidence and learnings from experts who have experience in similar fields. And there are a lot of communities already in India, and I have listed a few of them. Find them on Meetup, talk to the organizers. They may be able to help you talking to like-minded people, may be able to help you to connect with experts in case you are stuck with anything. And thank you so much for organizing Flutter Con India. Thank you so much, organizers. I really, really appreciate the efforts that you have taken in all this, the time that it takes to evaluate proposals from different speakers. I know it would have been a difficult decision for you to evaluate speakers because the response was tremendous, is what I came to know. You've built amazing website. It has really cool animations. Thank you for making this opportunity open for all to come and speak. Thank you, everyone, all of you who are listening right now, for taking the courage to learn new things. And thank you so much for staying at home and staying and watching FlutterCon India. Thank you so much, everyone. And in case you want to stay in touch with me, my Twitter handle is @Nikita Gandhi. I'd love to have a conversation with you on Twitter. So feel free to get in touch with me on Twitter. Thank you so much. Over to you, Poonam. Poonam, are you there?
Okay, I guess there is some internet issues with Poonam.
No worries.
Okay, so how you? Okay, let me put a question to you. How Flutter motivates you?
If I had to give you an honest answer, it's something that makes me feel like I want to live forever. So Flutter is something that is a source of energy for me. It's source of confidence for me because I understand what I'm building. I understand everything from scratch, how it works. So I feel confident about what I'm implementing. So I really enjoy working on Flutter.
Yeah, that's great. Let me try to have Poonam again.
Are there any questions in the audience?
Questions? Yeah. So no, I don't think we have questions from audience.
All right. No worries. Thank you so much.
Okay, that's great. So we have our closing notes. So thank you, Nikita, for coming over here. Okay, you have a question. Can you all hefty and complex threading related task in Flutter? That's too complex question, I guess.
Yes, but I think I can take this question. If your question is, yes, if your question is about handling multi-threading in Flutter, that has a different concept. It does not have a concept of multi-threading. It handles single threads, but still you can access parallel components so you can access multiple components in parallel.
Okay, great. Do we have any other question? Can you do all it hefty?
I think that's
Okay.
the second question.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, Punav is here.
Yes. Do join the Flutter communities around you. If you have more questions, you'll be meeting more experts over there. You can also join Google developer groups wherein the organizers can also connect you with a lot of experts. There are a lot of opportunities in India itself. Provided you have the zeal to learn, you have everything in India.
Nikita, we are a big fan of yours. This is
Oh,
little to say. This is a little to say. We are a big fan of yours. Because see, when we are planning things, when we were planning that, let's have Nikita if she can come up, and you were there. So I don't think any of us got to know you personally or got to have a conversation with you personally. But whenever we have something, as I said, that we want to do this, you are there. Okay, yeah, I'll be there. I'll cooperate. And things are sorted like this. They are very smooth in transition and everything. Even from initiation to execution, it's like, okay, Nikita is there. You get the speakers, you get everything sorted. Not only
thank
from
you.
the idea, this is something that we newbies really lack, that we are afraid, will we be able to make this event worth that? If people are investing their even an hour of time, we'll have to put that good content to them. Okay guys, you're not wasting your time, you're learning something, at least you're evolving some or other way. And the way you support everything, like it sounds like, yeah, this is what you want to do. Like as you said, you want to make education open for us. So any possible ways that you can do that, you're doing it like amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I could help you with this big event. I was just a small part of this big event that you all have planned, and I know it takes sleepless efforts. So, thanks to all of you for managing such an amazing event, and I hope you come back with something more awesome in the upcoming days.
And we hope that you will be here with us some very soon, like a face-to-face event or something, where you will be teaching us even more amazing stuff, that anything you will teach would be helpful for us, that we know, because we are like kid in candy store.
Yeah, honestly speaking, this was my first non-tech session in Flutter, so I did not know what to do, what to speak about. I wanted to keep it generic because it was a closing session. I don't know if everybody liked it, but yeah, I'll try to become better in the upcoming days. Um there's
We
one
loved it
question
just
in
like
the
this.
audience. Yes, thank you for showing that dart. I have left my dart in my Bangalore house. I don't have dart over here. I really miss him. But yes,
Wow.
there's. Oh, thank you so much. There's one question in the audience: how to join a GDG group. So I can post a link where you can go and you can find the nearest GDG in your city.
Sure. We will try to spread all the stuff, all the necessary stuff with them, so that they can make most out of that.
Sure, I'll just post it. Probably you can paste it.
Sure. Nikita, I was just going through that Medium post of yours, one of them, where you wrote that you were not so vocal and so easy to speak in public, but now you are something that we want to be like her. So how was that transition? Because there are women take maker community, like especially if I focus on the girl community that we have, it is uplifting people like anything. It's been such a short time that we are able to collaborate with, we are able to know them, we are able to attend the event that they are organizing. But the way it is coming up all together, it is like, wow, we have that space, and we have some great leaders even. So I know and I believe that it's you who manages these things really well, choosing the right people to lead the things in a right way. So how is that transition from speaking nothing, like very less, to taking talks and letting influencing everyone?
Okay, I take this opportunity to actually share my story. So basically, I was a very, very big introvert, and I still am. unless you talk to me about the topics that I like, I don't easily reply to you because I don't know what to say. So
Okay.
I really come with a very shy mind and introvert background, but that doesn't mean I don't want to talk to anyone. I do want to talk to people, but it's hard for me to begin conversations. But when I was young, probably in my college days, I was a part of Google Student Clubs. I was a volunteer in the club or the team that was a part in my college. And my senior pushed me to give talks. And when I saw that the response was overwhelming, she first pushed me to learn a new language that I did not know at all. That was Python. We did not have Python in syllabus. She pushed me to learn. She suggested me some awesome platforms where I can learn Python. And then she asked me, why don't you give a talk? The response that I got from the audience was tremendous. And then I thought, like, yes, this is the time I can keep like evolving. I can make my talks better, and I'm still doing that. So opportunities like these have helped me to become an extrovert, at least in a technical platform.
If I'll just and try to sum up what I understood so far as an audience perspective, it is like sensing the opportunity and grabbing it and making it as good as we can. So just sense that and you try to practice and just focus on what all you are good at and what all you can try out things, and then the audience and the agenda, and then club them all together.
Correct, correct.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nikita. We are so happy to have you. We really don't want to end this conversation because we have a lot to learn from you, but we will have to. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd love to be a part of more such sessions and keep doing the awesome work that you all have been doing. And
Thank
goodbye,
you.
everyone. Take care. Hope to come
Thank you.
with
Please take care of yourself. Yeah, thank you.
Bye
We'll see you
bye.
soon again. Thank you. Yeah. Wonderful. So, guys, we are almost done with all the speakers we had lined up in this 3 days event. We tried learning and improvising each day by each session, and we tried to make as good as we could serve for you. Hopefully, we could meet your expectations. Hopefully, we could achieve what you guys had expected from us or from this 3 days event. We weren't knowing each other first. The 9 communities that are involved in this, we weren't knowing each other, but this was the idea. So I'll quickly switch on this question to Aniket because he's the man behind everything who thought that let's do this. So Aniket, over to you. How do you thought that let's have something, let's launch it, let's organize an event and connect the communities and let's collaborate and let's make something that even during this lockdown kind, like this period is something nobody wants to, they just want, they're like in some negative zone. We are locked up, we're self kidnapped kind of stuff, but still you thought of this idea and you actually made it like a smooth way. A lot of great dishes we tried serving them, and we are almost like we did good. I feel we did good. The kind of speakers we had lined up in these 3 days, the kind of content they delivered, and the way we tried connecting the possible dots, I think we did good. So I will just ask you so that next time if some other individual community even wants to plan something like that, they would have an idea, they would have an inspiration that how they can make this in flow. Over to you, Aniket. Thank you. You need to unmute yourself. Aniket, unmute yourself.
Hello
तकनीकी
everyone.
खराबी के लिए हमें माफी चाहते हैं. Over to you. Yeah,
Yes.
man. Go ahead.
Hello everyone. So how end up with Flutter Con India? So one day, Flutter team and Ahmedabad team was discussing together Flutter communities of India to do a small meetup. So we end up with a Flutter Con India now. So I contact with all Flutter organizers from Meetup page, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I almost connected with 7 communities of India, which were Maheshwari Shukla from Flutter Bangalore, Bipin from Flutter Hyderabad, Sanjay Ramani from Flutter Surat, Ashish Singh from Flutter Pune, Ayush Berwani from Flutter Vadodara, Divyanshu from Flutter Gwalior, and Praful from Flutter Nagpur, and me from Flutter Mumbai, and Sunny from Flutter Ahmedabad. So these were 9 teams, and we did this Flutter Con India. So thank you team, Flutter India team, Google Dev teams, Google Dev India team, and Flutter Dev team. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Wow. I'm so happy that we have three speakers still we have connected with us. We had a quick question for all of you. I was just thinking, like, we were quite nervous that how will we end up, like, we two people speaking and like messing our hands with everything. You, Pooja, Devin, and Majid. Guys, since we talk about community, you guys are a part of it and you guys are big influencers. The way you carry yourself, the way you spread things to everyone, it is making a great influence to everyone. Like, it definitely each individual, like, especially if I'll count on the organizing part, we are somewhere started learning, or some are still thinking of learning, and some are contributing really well. But again, with help of your content and the way you have spread it, like shared the documentation and blogs and articles about it, that's what is being the base of that we are able to do it. We are at least thinking that, oh, we will be able to do it now, we can do it, we can at least give it a try. So how was this community thing for you? You guys must have made a single a person who asked you to, can you please join this or something like that? A quick story, if you can tell us. Yeah, Pooja, you can take up, and then Devin, Majid, according to your feasibility.
Hi. Yeah, so I think the community part was pretty important in the process of shaping me where I am today. I was talking about that first article that we had that I had posted, and like soon enough, Tim Sneath and Nilay, they found the article somehow. I don't know how, but they found the article, and then they shared it in their Twitter thing. And then that time, actually, after that, in few weeks, people started like reading my articles more because of that. I mean, I think it just was probably not the content, or maybe it was because they shared it, like the people from Flutter team shared it, something like that, kind of made it more viral kind of thing. But later on, we realized the actual impact of the community, that everybody was helping each other. There was no like boundary. Even when you were actually asking something to the Flutter team, like the official people, there was no boundary. They were very involved in the community even today. Like, it's been 2 years since then, and yet they are still very involved with whatever questions we have, doubts we have, and whatever complaints we also have. They're still involved with it. And of course, the rest of the people in the community were also happy to share or help you. Even as a GD today, I had kind of a imposter syndrome in the beginning, that, oh, I can't ask something because they will think that I'll not know about it. I don't know it. And once I became GD, it was also a little bit more like, oh shit, now I'm a GD, now with an expert tag. If I ask a silly question, people will really think that I don't know how did I even become a GD. So that kind of thing happened. But really, in the community, I did not feel like that much at all, that people were happy to help you, happy to push you up, like they were happy to lift you. So it was pretty great experience with the community. They were this is the one of the most important things in the Flutter community. That is the thing that actually keeps it going and keeps it still sane, and like keeps us still writing for the community. So that was great. That was kind of how community helped me.
I had a similar story to yours in terms of articles, but in terms of the Flutter like development itself, me and Nikita actually started pretty much together. We had debate. We took talks on actually React Native versus Flutter at the very start, and like we had these kind of arguments, like pretty much like every day, every week, about what's better, what's not, and later on, like when I started writing, I used to write. I started writing, and they used to be like nominal views, but like one day I just jumped like 5,000-6,000, and I saw Tim Sneath had actually retweeted it, like, and that was obviously a one-off case. It's not like he retweeted everything. He retweets everything I do, but that single thing gives you a lot of inspiration to actually carry on. Like, somebody out there is appreciative of your work, and that gives you the actual strength to carry on as well, write more and things like that. So overall, I just think like the community as a whole has been very supportive. There's especially I don't want to call someone out, but if you've seen like the Reddit Android, like the Android subreddit, compared to how toxic that is, I just love being in this community as a whole, because there, if you post one thing wrong, 1,000 people will come at you with full force. And yeah, if you mention Flutter, you're dead. So overall, compared to those kind of, after I've seen like a lot of the other communities, I just feel really glad that I'm this one.
So I guess it's my turn. Well,
yeah,
it's almost similar stories, but I'm gonna actually add something else on top of all of those things that you mentioned. Is that to me, community is everything. So, like, I'm organizing a lot of small communities, meetups, and etc. Conferences here, and I guess the more we give to community, the more we get back. And this is in general in the life is also true. Like the more you help, the more you get back. This is my belief at least. So that's why I guess. But I'm not saying that everyone. But if you believe that you need to get more and learn more, then you need to start contribute more to this community. So if you are passionate about Flutter, like us at the moment in the stream, then start contributing immediately. So, and then you'll see yourself. I don't need to say like you will get it. Yeah, immediately you see the result, the appreciations, the helps, a lot of constructive feedbacks and things that you see immediately, and you feel proud afterwards. Like, wow, such a great community. And in general, all the communities are great, but right now we're talking about Flutter itself. So that's it. So I guess start contributing and see the result yourself instead of me telling you what will happen. You feel it, you see it.
Seems like how many number of followers you have on your social media handle? Till the time you don't help and you don't let others evolve, basically let them try to be confident and motivated enough to platform themselves as an individual. That's when you're like apuni bhagwan, you're like God. Number of followers you have doesn't matter. It is like it's just a number. When somebody is trying to get education, when somebody is trying to, okay, I can be the speaker, and whatever they have learned so far in their even 1 year of experience or 10 years of experience, but if they haven't spoke about it so far, but whatever they have learned is worth knowing. There is a good crowd who really wants to listen about it, who really wants to get inspired from that. When you can influence someone, when you can make someone feel you are good enough to speak about it, that's when you are winning the battle. So I think, yeah, the helping part is something that community is all based on. You take emotions, you take passion, and then you gather everyone. It is not only again limited to learn new technologies. A lot of networking happens when you get like-minded people, as you guys say. And we have three of you, like we have jams when we count on three of you. Wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. We won't be able to ask much questions, but we'll try to take them offline. We'll ask the audience to tweet you and use your use social media contacts to, and you can respond to them. We know that you will be happily responding them again, because after all, community players you guys are. So we won't be asking much. We won't be eating much time of yours. Checking the time is like clock is ticking. So we will try to wrap up now. Thank you so much. Thank you for being so kind and being so expert, and whatever you guys did, you prepared for us. You took out your time. You guys would be having the most hectic schedule I count on sometimes. So, but still, you
Yeah.
did it. You did
Thank
it for
you.
us. You did it for the entire audience. Thank you so much. Hopefully, we'll see you again.
Thank you for organizing
Not
this event as
virtually
well.
again. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Majid.
very much.
Poonam. Thank you,
Hope you
everyone.
guys.
You've all been very kind.
Yeah, thank you.
So we can proceed.
Yeah, we'll proceed towards closing now. Thanking anyone would be lesser for this 3 day.
Yeah.
As I said, we weren't knowing anyone.
Oh, I
I
guess
think
again our internet issue. So
it's like it's like the
Aniket, you
highlight
can
of
take
the
over.
stream that
Take over.
yeah,
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Yeah,
So,
I think Yash is also here.
She's
am
trying
I
to come
audible?
back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Arre.
you are.
Yeah. Pooja is here also again.
I'll start.
Fluctuation,
So,
fluctuation.
hello? Yeah. So thank you first of all for all the hosts, all the team backing, all the team working behind, all the team working ahead, all the hosts who have taken the 3 days. We have been standing like from 8:30 to 11:30 for last 3 days. We have been working. Our admins who have been controlling us, who have been helping us, who have been getting us backstream, front stream, which was actually difficult to timing and everything. So thank you everyone. Our speakers who have come for us, who has taken time for us to speak on our platform. Thank you very much. And finally, to thank the audience who have been who have been visiting our YouTube channel, learning from our knowledge, sharing their experience, their questions. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you. So the next speaker.
In the last, comment, share, and subscribe this channel, and let others to know that there was an event happened in the lockdown, and it was such a great event. We had such a great speakers from all over the world speaking on great and important topics as well. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, again, I also like to thank everyone for the support and everything. I'll also like to thank whole team and all other communities for supporting us, supporting our initiative. So I like to thank to like Nikita and Google developers for supporting us and organizing this amazing event for like 3 days. So thank you everyone.
So I think we can end this here. Okay, so bye, Aniket, Aditya, Ayush,
Bye, bye.
Ayash.
Yeah, again,
Thank guys.
yeah. Bye.